Welcome to Two Guys and a Question. Between them, Alan Creedy and Danny Jefferson have almost 100 years hands-on experience with funerals, funeral directors, finance, and real-life situations. Every Tuesday and Thursday, they field questions for more than 1,200 subscribers, hoping to stimulate your thinking and resolve your challenges.
This is Danny Jefferson.
And this is Alan Creedy.
And this is Two Men and a Question. And Alan, the question today, and we want all of our listeners to really be thinking, if you're driving down the road, if you're in your den or whatever, we want your full attention to this. But the question is possibly philosophical, or it can be certainly engaging, and we would certainly entertain you calling in to ask us more questions or give us on our website. But the question is there really such a thing as a funeral anymore?
Danny, this is what is really referred to as a turning point question. I'm going to share some information with you. As some of you are aware, I believe if you look at the historical trends in funeral service, we're going through our fifth major professional transformation in the last 150 years.
Now, what do you mean by that?
We're going to leave our past behind us, and we're going to enter into a new type of model. And we're struggling with that right now, and some people are making headway, some people are losing ground. But if we could go back in time to 1875, I think we would find the core competencies and the customs and the practices and just about everything out. It totally outdated. It would have no relevance to today, and that's part of what's begun happening. So, one of my favorite authors and somebody who has really posed some provocative questions.
Who is that?
Leads right into what we're talking about is Peter Drucker.
Okay.
And I'm not going to go into depth on that. You can look him up on the internet. But here's what he says. He's talking about companies in crisis. Where do these crises come from? And one of the things he says is the root cause of nearly every one of these crises is not that the things are being done poorly. It's not even that the wrong things are being done. Indeed, in most cases, the right things are being done, but fruitlessly. What accounts for this apparent paradox? The assumptions on which the organization has been built and is being run no longer fit reality.
Wow.
And he talks about one of those assumptions. There's three, actually, if you look at the whole thing. And that is that there are assumptions about core competencies needed. All right. Now, the core competencies were needed in 1875 were the ability to handle horses,
right,
drive a team, and build a coffin, right?
Carpenter.
All right. Those are the core competencies. Those core competencies are entirely unnecessary in today's environment. But what he goes on to say, and then we'll get back to the specific topic, is that in the early days of a profession's development, it's easy to understand what the business is. But as it goes on, the organization begins to pursue and I'm going to quote here, they begin to pursue what is expedient rather than what is right. It stops thinking. It stops questioning. It remembers the answers, but has forgotten the questions. The theory of the business becomes culture, but culture is no substitute for discipline, and the theory of the business is a discipline. So here's my point. I would take the position, and I think this is a pivotal question, that there really is no such thing as a funeral anymore, and here's why I say that. When the word funeral is a loaded word. For any funeral director, it instantly provokes a visual of what a funeral is. We even talk about the good funeral, okay? And it always involves certain steps, whether they be visitation wake or funeral ceremony or in a procession and so on and so forth. It should be obvious now that a large part of our market no longer finds those things things they want to participate in. They want something completely different. And what is different? Well, the truth of the matter is, and this comes back to your personal philosophy, is what is not different is the ceremonial approach to what is fundamentally a sacred object to that family.
And that ceremony, in my opinion, always starts at the removal.
It absolutely starts at the removal, and it's not limited. And let me make an even stronger statement. It is not limited to the arrangements conference or the visitation, if there is one, or repast, if there is one, or procession or funeral ceremony itself. That's not what it's limited to. It is the respectful, reverent management of the process. And today, instead of being represented by merchandise and by a church-organized type of funeral, church-organized type of ceremony, which is great. I'm an evangelical Christian. That's what I want. But the reality for a lot of people is what they want out of this, and we've talked about this in other podcasts, and this is essential and critical, and it is why I am so I'm optimistic, but I'm so positive about the ceremonial touch you lend to everything you do, and that is that people want to know that the loved one mattered, and they want the experience itself to be somehow transformational.
The Denver Broncos.
Yes.
Football team, National Football League,
right,
had a very prominent member of their team, Demaryius Thomas, died suddenly just this past week.
Mm-hmm.
Demaryius Thomas was very, very well liked. He was a very good person, and thus he was very well liked. How do you give a funeral to 50,000 people in a stadium impromptu? Kickoff was made. The offense took the field without their ex-receiver. They sent 10 men out on the field, and the person that should have been there was not there, thus like an empty chair on the table. Powerful stuff. Well, let me add to that. Powerful stuff. So they were given a penalty, a yellow flag for not having the person on the field. The visiting team, in this case the Baltimore Ravens, actually it was the Detroit Lions, declined the penalty. There wasn't a dry eye in the house.
Sure. I'm struggling myself right now.
That was a funeral.
Well, so remember, the funeral is a loaded word. I don't know that we have a replacement word at this point. We're still struggling with the semantics on this, but we know that we're moving from one place to another. So core competencies, let's get back to this. Core competencies in 1875 were carpentry, livery, that sort of thing, okay? Today, core competencies when you and I started in the profession was casket merchandising, embalming, and orchestrating a funeral, right?
Right.
Well, those were important at that time in place, and they were the appropriate. Okay, those are still important, but far less important than the ability to understand stage setting, to be resourceful in terms of doing something that would acknowledge the uniqueness of that life. You showed me just a few minutes ago a picture of a Reese's peanut butter cup with a simple paper label on it that said the name of the person who was deceased and their birth and death year. But I'm confident that to the people that attended that ceremony who were given a Reese's peanut butter cup, which was the favorite candy of that person, understood immediately and had a very high impact to that. So what I'm saying is I don't think there is such a thing as a funeral anymore, and I'm saying that because I believe the use of that term is self-limiting. I don't know what to replace it with, but it is not what we did in 1980. It's definitely not what we did in 1980 for the vast majority of the markets we serve, including evangelical Christians.
Right.
So bear that in mind. So the answer to that question is no.
This has been 2 Men and a Question. Be sure and tune in because we're going to address the funeral. I know that question was one of the other ones we asked. Be sure and tune in. You can do it.
We can help.
Remember to send your questions by clicking the link at www.twoguysandaquestion.com. New questions are answered every Tuesday and Thursday at 4:22 p.m. Eastern Time.